Welcome, everyone. We are here today with the phenomenal NetApp women, the sales team. I'm so excited today to be talking with you all on our panel on leadership, mentorship, and advancing careers for Black women in tech sales. I'm pleased to be joined by these three outstanding leaders, Tiffany, Jackie, and Jamarian. And I'm really excited because we've been talking a little bit behind the scenes and we got some really good stuff for y'all. So I want to kick things off and just kind of have everyone do like a brief round of intros. Tell us who you are, maybe a fun fact about yourself, and then we'll kick it off and jump straight into the event. All right, Jackie, we'll start with you.
Excellent. Hello, Jackie McKinley. I am out of Atlanta and been with NetApp now for 2.5, almost 3 years. And my fun fact, let me tell you what I do. I am a U.S. enterprise sales leader, so I run all of the large enterprise business across the United States. Love it. Have a great team. I've got 7 direct reports. I've got about 120 sellers in the organization and about 17 district managers in the organization as well. Fun fact about me, I love kickboxing and line dancing and walking.
Ooh, okay. I might have a line dancing partner because no one ever wants to go with me. So
okay, love it.
Okay, I'm gonna hit you up, Jackie.
Great.
Awesome, Tiffany.
All right, so Tiffany McClinton. I am also based in Atlanta, Georgia. I am the Enterprise District Sales Manager for Georgia and Florida. It's a new role for me, so I'm super excited. Been with the NetApp for almost 2 years, been in the tech industry since college, so 16 years. Fun fact about me, I was born and raised in Great Falls, Montana. My dad was in the military, and I actually like going to rodeos. So, fun fact.
Awesome. This sounds like the Texas Hold'em, so we getting kind of the whole Beyonce flavor going today. Awesome. Well, nice to meet you. Well, we're really happy to have you, Jamarian.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jamarian Monroe, and I am based out of RTP in North Carolina, so a couple states north of the ladies here. And I've been with NetApp for about 7 years now. I am a global account executive working on the Cisco account, which is an awesome team to be on, an awesome role. And I would say my fun fact is I love to sing. I've been singing since I was a little girl in church choirs and in college, and I've even been in a band. So, yeah.
Okay, I feel like we can have a whole, like, again, Beyonce Renaissance Act 2 going on. All right, let me get off my little Beyonce tip. Okay, so I'm Brittany, your host for SS TV, and we are going to be kicking things off and really diving into uncovering what it's like to be in sales, learning about the leadership, mentorship opportunities, and really just get to know these fabulous women because I'm going to tell you right now, these are some amazing women. I've had very brief conversations, but just been enamored with the wisdom and everything that they're bringing to the table. It's all passion, love, and I'm excited. All right, so we're going to kick things off. I first want to kind of set the stage and being able to understand a little bit more about your professional backgrounds. And so, Tiffany, I'll jump it over to you, Tiffany and Jackie, and your leadership positions and talk a little bit about that. Starting off with Tiffany, what have been some of the biggest differences in selling enterprise technology versus other segments?
Yeah, so great question. During my time in technology, I've had the opportunity to really sell into commercial, into acquisition, into enterprise segments. And they've all really caused me to have more of a tailored sales approach, right? Some of the differences for enterprise are scale and complexity. You're talking about organizations that really deal with larger and more complex environments, with a greater volume of data to manage, which means there's no one size fits all strategy. There's no canned solution that works with them. And our solutions have to scale and have to fit a wide range of different applications, different workloads, versus a commercial customer may prioritize their solutions that are more straightforward, more canned, more focused on, hey, I just need simplicity over efficiency. And so those have been some of the things that I've kind of noticed. Also with enterprise level customers, sales cycles tend to be longer. So that's taught me a lot of patience. just solely because there are a lot more stakeholders involved in the decision, right? How many more signatures you have to get versus commercial, it may be something smaller. You just have to get the CIO signature, procurement signature. So I think there's some overlap overall. I think the biggest thing is that there's no one size fits all. Customers are still very cost conscious. Customers are still, dealing with security and compliance across the board. Support, everybody wants to be up 24/7. But overall, I think complexity changes the dynamics when we're talking about enterprise level customers.
Absolutely. And I think that, like, to your point that you said, there's patience there. You really got to have that sense of patience inside, especially when you're trying to get that deal over the line. That's a soft skill that most of us, it's kind of hard, especially being in sales, in the quarter, you're like, okay, now what's going on? So, but yeah, I think that is something to definitely lean in on. What do you think made you such a good person being able to understand patience for yourself and move those deals along? Like, what do you think you leaned on and anchored yourself in and being able to get to that point as you've escalated your career?
Yeah, so giving myself grace, I think is a big piece, right? I know the value that I bring. I know the ability to be able to negotiate and bring a deal across the board. But you can't be so adamant about, get the deal, where it comes across as desperation to customers. And that was an early learning fact for me when I started being into field sales. I would not even active listen in an engagement with a customer because I was so adamant about, okay, I'm walking out of here with a PO. And so I think, experience brings patience, really wanted to be more of that trusted value advisor to your customers, and distinguish yourself from the competition, because your customers are meeting with people across the board, daily, weekly, and they really remember the individuals that bring the value to the account set and to the conversation. And so I was, again, soft skill that I had to definitely learn. And the sooner you learn it, the more impactful and the more effective you can be as a salesperson.
I 1,000,000% agree. And I think those soft skills become the bread and butter of it all when it comes to sales expertise, because those aren't things you can teach. That's something that you have to learn from within to really be able to connect with people. And I'm sure that's something that Jackie saw in you, as she is going to talk to us a little bit more about how you and her have cultivated this amazing relationship. So Jackie, could you talk to us a little bit more about that and what mentorship and sponsorship looks like when we're thinking about nurturing one another, and supporting one another in these spaces, because you obviously saw some of these soft skills in her to bring her along.
Absolutely. I would say, thank you for asking that wonderful question. We were talking behind the scenes. I'll never forget when I was in a leadership role in my former employer and I had lunch. I was taking an assessment of all the client executives or account executives in the organization. And when I came across Tiffany's name, her name had been coming up. And I invited her out for a meal, breaking bread. I just think it's so important to have that face-to-face interaction. And as I listened to Tiffany, I said, this young lady has vision. This young lady is, again, and super intelligent. She has the business acumen to go very far. And she had not had that sponsorship. I hope she doesn't mind my saying that before. She already had the abilities. But sometimes you have somebody else shine the spotlight on what that person's doing. So I, behind the scenes, became her advocate. Of course, I provided some mentorship with her. She was working on her doctorate degree, family, but she was also about the numbers. She's about engaging. She wanted to win. I saw the competitive spirit in her. So behind the scenes, when people, when you're not in the room, you want someone to advocate on your behalf. And that's what I chose to do for Tiffany. And since that, she already had the skill set. She just needed someone to sponsor that. So over the years now, her career has blossomed. I've seen it progress. Even from afar, I was watching that career progress. When I came over to my new company, someone who's working as a leader underneath me said, hey, what about Tiffany? I said, absolutely. If she's open and applies for the role, I've seen her come into the company we're with now, NetApp. She's done successful in her 1 year or so, 1.5 year stint in that role, or 2 years, she mentioned. Now she's taken a new, more impressive and aggressive position to expand her career. But the point in what you're saying, when you see it, I was intentional. I would tell 3 things that's so very important is that you want to make sure you know your value. Tiffany knew her value. She needed somebody else to see that value. And Tiffany staying visible. it's so easy to retreat when you think no one sees the value, but you want to, again, have that value, demonstrate that value. You want to be visible and never lose your voice. And Tiffany did not lose her voice. And as a result, the sky's the limit for Tiffany.
That is, I'm again, like we were talking like this again behind the scenes. This is what it is, right? Like knowing your value, knowing your worth. And in order to be able to see that in someone, you had to have that too, Jackie. You had to have that for yourself.
Many times. I can go off and tell you many stories about that. And so I don't want to take all that time, but it's about that mindset. It really is about reassuring. And you have to have a tribe around you too. And that tribe is so very important. As I talk about some of the elements of success, keeping that mindset for me, every morning I wake up, I pray for strength. I pray for courage. At the level I am, I've got to do that because I have to make decisions that may not be favorable. But I speak up on others' behalf when I see things that might not be a justice situation, but I don't let data alone on a spreadsheet determine the outcome. There are more things behind that, but that took courage for me over the years to be able to do that. And you're right. I had to know that I have that voice. I've got to make sure I'm staying visible no matter what, and that I will always bring value wherever I am.
Thank you so much for sharing that. It warms my heart to know that because it also validates. I mean, even in this, like I'm learning even as we do these things, it just revalidates. When you know you're on the right track, you just hear the affirmations and other people because you're already giving that to yourself. So thank you for sharing that. I wanted to jump over to Jamarian and kind of talk a little bit about how you've invested in community and some initiatives. I know Girl Scouts was a part of that history and having certain influential mentors and sponsors throughout your career transition. What would you say are some of the best advice or nuggets you've received to help you along the way as well?
Yes, thank you. That's an excellent question. For me, coming into NetApp was my first time in a private sector role. I came from the public sector, and it was a major transition for me. And so it was really important to find mentors and sponsors and people that could really guide me because I had no idea what I was doing. And so I've received a lot of great advice over the years working at NetApp, and even mentors that were outside of my field as well. And one of the things that was repeated to me over and over again was about building my brand. And I've really taken that to heart and making sure that I'm visible, I'm seen, so that other young girls and women can see that it is possible to work in technology sales as a Black woman and to show up as your authentic self. And so building my brand is all about being me. I'm very open about who I am and my experiences. I'm very open about my family, my beautiful wife, and my 2 kids. I make sure that people see them and know that they're at the center of everything that I do, and everything else comes after that. And that's important. And, putting myself out and doing things like this is a great way to show people that we are here and we exist. And it is possible to have a thriving career in sales and in the IT space specifically. And so taking all those things to heart, being present, showing up, being myself has really helped me just develop a great brand.
I love that you said showing up as yourself. And again, this is just a common theme you just start hearing when you're in the right environments, right? Because you don't have to feel like you have to fend someone off or have this exterior that we so much in our spaces being underrepresented always feel. Because when we are sitting back and you're the only in a room, come on, like girl.
You're right. Absolutely.
A lot in this space.
And it will happen. Exactly right. In this
You
space.
are shielding it off in whatever way you possibly can.
Absolutely.
Because you're just trying to feel accepted. And I'm too scared to be me.
Mm.
I am too scared to show up as me because if I show you who I am, this is where I make my money.
Right.
You got it. You got it. And can I piggyback on that, Brittany? We were talking behind the scenes. We're totally going off script, as I said that we probably would, because we're being very authentic. I'll never forget, before I came over to NetApp, which is a wonderful, wonderful company, my prior employer, I was doing a mentorship group. And in that mentorship group, there were 16 African-American women who had different levels of their career. Some that had been with the company 16 years, some had been 3 or 4 years, and they could not seem to get to that next level. And I was doing a session on microaggressions and the imposter syndrome with the women. And I went around the room because I'm in sales and I was in a silo, but these were women from every business unit. And they were telling me about some of the microaggressions they were experiencing. And they just wanted to know some solutions to help them. I listened. And when I hung that phone up that day, it was our last day of the quarter. And if you're in sales, as most of you are, you understand that last day of the quarter is like everything, getting those deals in.
Yes.
So I waited till after business closed, and I had the COO's personal cell phone number for this very, very large company. And I had to make a decision. I said, let me call. I knew it could be a career limiting move, but I knew I couldn't hear these 16 women tell me this and do nothing about it. And it was not about me. And so I made the call to this very important executive, and I, on a voicemail, left the information about that. He called later. He said, hey, let's take Saturday, Jackie, and let's go through this. It was right after the George Floyd situation. And so I respect the fact he took that time with me. And what he said to me, and when women were saying their hairstyles were limiting, they were getting feedback on that, he said something important to me that helped me when I came over to NetApp. He said, what does someone's hair have to do with their ability to execute? It was the first time. Again, sometimes we need that validation from someone in higher positions. That really resonated with me. And I'm so proud to say, when I came to NetApp, one of the conversations I had with the executive recruiter, I want to be in an environment where I can make a difference, but I can be my authentic self. And everything you said, Jamarian, NetApp is that environment to let us be able to do that. Yeah. So for last year, I wore braids almost all of last year. And women of color know this, for a protective hairstyle. I never thought about it. And when people said your hair, I forgot I even had braids, because now I want them to know what I bring to the table and not what my hair brings to the table.
Absolutely. Because the imposter syndrome is real. I think we have all been there. I grew up in all predominantly white environments growing up. Seeing a Black person was like, oh my God, like I done seen a unicorn.
Right.
So I would go on interviews straight. I would never wear my hair curly. I would not wear my hair curly. I didn't want to come off too Afrocentric. And in those interviews, when I would do it, even though maybe I got the job, I wasn't even being me. So then it was like, I can't even show. I'm so worried about what you think of me. I can't even show up in the way that I know I can deliver, because my mind's so worried about other things. So when you have that space, like what NetApp has created, that psychological safety to show up as you, girl, you're thriving. You're doing what you already naturally know how to do. And it just makes sense. You're not even trying at that point, because you get to just be you. And I think that's so important, and a very important thing we need to think about when we're putting ourselves in environments, auditing those environments and making sure you feel safe. So thank you. I think it's a similar feeling we've all had and constantly have had in such different situations. So yeah, I think that's very important. I wanted to kind of turn over to another leaf and learn a little bit more about, as you are in these sales roles, what type of things are you doing to connect with your clientele or people that you're selling to? What helps you really, now that you have the right mindset, how do you connect with others, especially when you're like an other in the room? Are there certain things that you do? Just I'm curious to know.
Yeah. I'm happy to speak. Working with Cisco and strategics, it can be challenging because there are a lot of people that do not look like me in all the spaces that I show up. And so for me, it's finding some type of common ground. I'm the type of person, and for those who know me well, know that I will find something that we can connect on and sync on, and I will hold on to that. It could be something as simple as we may have family members that grew up in the same community, or we grew up with a similar religious background, or whatever the case may be, but I'll find that common denominator between the two of us and make a connection, because at the end of the day, we're selling to people, right? Have the technology and all that's there, and that's all well and good. But at the end of the day, I'm trying to figure out how to make your life better. How am I going to make your life easier so that you can get home to your family soon, and sooner? You can go to more basketball games with your kids, go out on a date night with your partner, whatever it is. How can I make your life simple? And knowing people and having that connection with them allows you to really perpetuate yourselves, because now they're looking at you as like a real person. You're not just trying to sell me something. You're not just trying to get me to spend money. You really care about me and my goals and what I'm trying to accomplish. And it really starts with finding that common thread. and building out a relationship from there, especially in the strategic place where, like you said earlier, Tiffany, the sales cycles can be very long. So you're going to be talking to people and cultivating relationships for a long time.
And you
That
just
was
going back to
beautiful.
self. Like, again, you have to know who you are to go find what's similar to someone else.
Exactly.
Where did you grow up? All of these different things. If you're shutting those things out, you're not really accepting you for you.
Right.
To be able to connect. I mean, that's just humanly. It's not just the skin. Unfortunately, like that's the first thing you see.
Yeah.
But it's way deeper than that. It's way deeper than that. Jackie, you were gonna say something?
No, I everything she said was perfect. It was wonderful. I just want to expound on it at my level too. Everything you've got to people buy from those they not know and like. And one of the things I always say is a customer or person doesn't care how much you know until they know how much you care. That sums it up for me.
Yes.
Yep.
And by that, but also, ladies, I'm saying you got to come prepared, right? Once you have established that relationship with the customer, you have to get to know what's important for that customer, know their KPIs, know who their competitors are. You've got to show them that you're knowledgeable about their business. You want to know what threats they may see from a competitive perspective, what keeps them up at night. You want to get to know them as a human being. What challenges are they facing? But most importantly, sometimes salespeople forget to ask, what's going to make them most successful? What is their bonus tied to? How can the solution that you're selling really help them and let them know it's not a widget you're selling? Everything you're doing is what's in it for that customer on the other side. And when they understand that you really care about their business, you care about their success, it does make that connection like Jamarian talked about.
It 100% does. I think that is extremely important to I always say this. I feel like I preach this all the time on LinkedIn, like on my posts. People are people. We are selling into businesses, but there's still a person there. You gotta be able to have a relationship with a person.
That's right.
Absolutely. You don't know how to listen. You can't listen to me. You probably ain't listening to the person that you're at home with, your friends, your family. This is a skill set it's just who you are as a person. So are you doing it? Is it self-motivated? Are you coming and asking for something from me? It's dating. It's like the same thing.
Yes.
This is how you show up on a date. Like, hey, can you pay my bill real quick? You don't even know my name.
That's right. That's it. Yes, you're right.
So can we really think about this in a real like simplistic way and not overcomplicate things? I think that's what it is. When we're in sales, we overcomplicate it because that number is lingering. We got to hit this metric so fast. But if you take the time to cultivate the relationship, I really think that it speaks volumes, and you get customers that want to stay. It's not just about getting them, it's also about retaining them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yes. I love it. Love it. Tiffany, I want to hear from you. So as you're just being, stepping into this new role, you're a sales manager now. What are some things that you're thinking about as you've transitioned from being an individual contributor and then going into sales? Like, obviously you possess certain skill sets and things like that are being groomed and nurtured. And I can't wait to see you thrive and see what you do. What do you think you're anchoring yourself in right now as you're stepping into a new role?
Yeah, absolutely. So the new role, of course, requires more responsibility. So my mindset, I'm a strategic thinker. I'm a visionary type of leader. So my mindset is, hey, where are we? Where are we now? Right. Assessing and then executing. And so that's the mindset that I've been in over the last 3 weeks, is assessing the team, getting to know the team, building my brand for individuals that do not know what my brand is, and then at the same point in time, figuring out, hey, what's our importance? What's the impact of our business to the overall business, and figuring out, hey, what's the plan to execute on that? So, I mean, I think that's been the biggest piece for me in understanding and moving over here to the new role, because the previous role that I was in was more of an acquisition based. So the thought process around going to get business was more so, how do you knock on the door and get somebody to open the door, versus now, okay, we've got a book of business. We've got to figure out, especially from an enterprise standpoint, most enterprise reps do not have a lot of accounts. So the mindset that I'm learning and the mindset that I'm continuing pushing on the team is, we don't have 100% share of wallet in any capacity, right? So now your mindset comes, okay, well, I may have a little bit here, but how do I scale? How do I have better conversations with other individuals? Because enterprise, it's not just one person running the show. You've got segments within segments. And so when you have individuals who may have that contentment of, well, we're in the account set versus, but are you in the account set, right? And so really, really digging in, really helping them to become more strategic, even within their customer set, within their partner set. We're always selling ourselves. We're always selling our brand. A big thing about NetApp is we continue to be innovative, technology changes, and we have to be continuously learning. And if you have team members who are not in that place, who are content, that's not going to address and that's not going to pull the business forward. So really execution is my big key right now, my big strategy, my big vision for the team. But as a leader, being able to communicate that to the team in a way that's simple and not complex, in a way to basically funnel what the overall leadership team has as far as the value of what we're doing. Simplicity is key.
I love that. And they've got a great person. I can tell just how you're talking that they've got a great person leading the helm here. So awesome. Love hearing that. And I think to your point too, I think this is also the multi-threading facet a little bit too. Like as you're thinking about when you have a whole book of business now, you have to hit certain people inside of these accounts and build those relationships and understand. And I think when we think about enterprise accounts, there are so many different things that are happening within an enterprise organization, so many moving pieces that it does take time to understand the moving pieces. And you got to be willing to know what it is that they care about in each function and segment. And I don't think a lot of people, in sales, in my experience, take the time to really try to understand. I think, again, it goes back to, I got to do something for me. I got to hit a number. I feel like if you put the customer first, the number will come, because you've taken the time to understand it. They trust you. So I think that your strategy and definitely thinking about it from a holistic standpoint and disseminating that down to your teams is something that will allow you guys to continue to grow. Awesome. I did have a question, Jackie, real quick. As a decision maker, what are some of the top factors that you consider when you're evaluating proposals from incoming sales? Someone's trying to sell you something that NetApp might need. And then I'm also going to ask you the reverse of what someone like retaining customers, not customers, but having someone come in on the team. What are you looking from soft skills and things like that for people that might want to work at NetApp? So two-prong approach there.
Sure. So in terms of the first question, not many people, I don't have the purchasing power to be able to make those types of decisions. That's normally with our finance team typically. However, I do get pinged to give them inside information that I really don't have, because again, I'm siloed. So not a lot of people try to sell me, or let me just say this. They do try to sell me on trying to get to my team. And I'm very protective about the team. I'm looking for what value. I need to also know, give me references, give me your historical performance, and what kind of results have you driven? Just like we do when we're selling to customers, they want to know the same thing. So when someone's trying to sell to me to try to get to my team, I need to know that. And bottom line, what's in it for my team? So those same elements that I use when I'm selling to customers and my team selling to customers, I ask them to take that same approach with me. But in terms of someone trying to come on my team, I want to make sure this is, for me, a sales skill that sometimes become a lost art. I want people to remain curious. When we've been selling for so long, and Tiffany said this before about asking questions, or maybe it was Jamarian as well. How curious are salespeople? You never want to get complacent where you go in, and I really coach my team a lot on this. Stay curious. I would rather have someone who want to ask a lot of questions. Don't go in there knowing. Right before I jumped on this call, someone pulled me in the hallway about a big deal, Brittany. Literally, we're trying to get across the line. And he was he said, can we go and get this approved? I said, have you asked the question to the customer? What will it take? Because again, he was making some assumptions. So it really redirecting him. Go and find out what the customer's needs are. Stay curious. I also want someone who's coachable, someone who's a continuous learner, someone who adapts to new technologies. We know that right now, Brittany, artificial intelligence is a key new technology. I need to have someone who's embracing it and not afraid of new technology, and how do we leverage it? Also, I want someone who's adaptable. Change is going to be very, very constant, and resilient. When I know a year ago, 2 years ago, when it came in, we were selling one solution. We were focused on cloud, for example, and the company said, hey, let's make a pivot and make sure that we're also giving customers choices, hybrid cloud. Can you make pivots when the business needs are changing? So I need to have people who are adaptable. people who are resilient, people who have a proven track record, also very important. And people, again, coming in who are confident, who are not afraid to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes early on. Fail fast, learn from them, and keep on going. So those are some of the skills I look for. But most importantly, that adaptability and resilience are key, because that's helped me in my career too.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that you said and mentioned, AI is like huge right now, right? This is
Huge.
the topic of every conversation in any room that you're in. AI is going to be
Mhm.
brought up. And so as we're looking at this ever-changing environment, this environment means kind of like how the internet came in. This AI is kind of in the same landscape of
I
that,
agree.
right?
I
So
agree.
how we're thinking about adapting and making sure that we're, iron is sharpening iron. Jamarian, I was going to ask you, what are some things that you're thinking about when you think about AI, and how you as a sales rep go out there to make sure you're on point for when you need to have certain types of conversations? What do you do to pour into yourself so that you can be on your A game at all times?
Absolutely. That's a great question because things change so quickly, and it's hard to keep up with everything in this space and all the changes in technology from cybersecurity and AI and all the other spaces. But I think the way that I stay sharp is staying really connected to those subject matter experts, those SMEs that really know the technology, and bringing them into spaces and meetings with my customers and really listening to the way in which they position it, the value of AI in these spaces, and how the
Mhm.
customer wants to leverage AI. And so that allows me to have a better understanding of the technology and how I can position it in the best way for other customers and other business units that I may be working with. Because it is hard to sit down sometimes and go through a training video for hours and hours and hours. It's not always possible to do that. So you have to find creative ways to figure out how to learn the information that you need to be successful in your role.
Absolutely. I love that. And that's cross collaborating and being willing to say, hey, I don't know something. Can you come in and speak on this for me? And while you're speaking, actually, I'm going to be listening so I can learn and apply it in this particular thing, instead of feeling like, you know everything. I think that, again, back to self values, back to
Mhm.
understanding that you can take that and accept, I don't know everything and I'm not going to.
Exactly.
I'm a human. It's impossible. So
Yeah.
love that you pointed that out. Tiffany, I'm going to kind of ask you the same thing too, in terms of, but from a perspective of a sales leader. What are you thinking about cultivating this new environment, and staying on top of the curve from a management perspective?
Yeah, so for us, is how do we adopt our sales strategy to focus on AI and ML specifically? So I came to NetApp because they're innovative, right? So NetApp internally, we've created an artificial intelligence language. It's called Net AI Chat, that we can leverage as well. So when I became a new tech seller in the field, I'd be on the phone with the customer and I wouldn't know a question. I'd be on Google, I'd be on SharePoint digging for answers. Now we have our own internal AI chat that you can actually ask questions about, that's internal to us, that has all of the data, all of the questions that we can even, be asked. We can address that just in an AI chat bot. So it's the simple fact that, hey, we're not only selling our customers on this, we're emerging by doing it internally. We're educating our teams. We actually just had artificial intelligence community training before this panel, which was very, very interactive, very, very good to know. For me, it's about how engaged you can be, how active you're listening during those sessions. I'm a learner of, I'm the type of person that I learn better when we're actually in front of a customer and I have a SME that's there actually talking about how our solutions incorporate artificial intelligence. So it's really about curiosity, just staying relevant, remembering that, hey, as people, we are still in a scenario or in an environment where Blockbuster can be gone one day, right? And so if you personally do not keep yourself relevant on what the technology is right now, or how you can continue to stay relevant with your customers and helping them navigate where the technology is going, it changes the game and will be irrelevant within a couple of years. So you got to do the work and make sure that you're always learning, from whether it's from the SMEs or whether it's training, just putting yourself in a situation that gives you that competitive advantage.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think this has been such a great conversation. I'm even learning different things myself, as I'm, in the spaces, and I think, to be honest, that the skills that I always try to, even when I talk to myself about things, I always go back to my sense of self, right? Like the things that you grow, you learn, you apply these things in the way that you do the hard skills, right? It really does start from within your sense of self. And I think a lot of organizations in these trying times and the things that we see these days, like, diversity, inclusion, belonging, there's a lot of things happening in that space right now. Too many that I don't even think we have time for it. I know we don't have time
You
for
don't.
However, I think that it's a mindset, I think
Mm.
diversity, inclusion, belonging is a mindset. I'm diverse in thought. I'm including you in the conversations, and you belong. You feel like you belong. This is who I am as a person. We just have created departments to help try to get people to like listen to that part of what should be there from the first place. So I kind of want to like just kind of shift directions. I'm going to be opening it up here for questions here in the next minute now. Actually, now we have a question now came through is, what if the relationship affects the closing? So I guess let's have somebody feel, whoever wants to jump in. What if the relationship?
I'll start. So someone said it. It's about leveraging your network. And I've seen that happen before. So I'm going to interpret it this way. Let's say that you may not have a good relationship with that particular customer or decision maker. Leverage your network. Who in your company could have a better relationship? It's not about you. It's about leveraging all those subject matter experts or the other people on your sales team to be able to help also. Secondly, what about other people within that customer environment? I would say find out, what we do a lot within NetApp is leverage who has contacts within that particular account, not to go over someone's head, but to leverage it when you don't even need it. It's always better to have executives get engaged or key people get engaged when you don't need to have that purchase order. Number one. Number two, make sure that you're leveraging everyone on your team so it's not about you having to make that deal close by itself.
I think that is a very, very, very key thing, what you said. Engaging people when you don't need the purchasing order. Because again, what is that doing? It's making somebody feel used. Like, I know you're coming and bringing this person in on the last deal of the day. I'm in sales too. Like, come on, people are not stupid.
You got it.
Right.
You gotta like build the relationship. Another question we have that came in. Someone said that they're currently a VP at an international bank and they're ready to transition into enterprise tech sales. They're really currently developing a career transition plan, and they want to get some feedback on what kind of things they could be doing to do that. Anyone want to jump in?
Sure. Since it's the VP, I don't mind. I don't want to take all the time and talk, but please, Jamarian and Tiffany, I respect your opinion to add any commentary. So that VP of the bank, there are some skills that are transferable in any executive role. Find out. And I'm going to pause for just a minute. And I see this a lot with women and men. I'm going to say this. Men will take on a role. They'll go apply for the role. They may have just started a new role, but they're looking for the next role. They only qualify for 25, 30%. I had a male recruiter tell me that and say that they would go and apply for it. So I'm telling that VP, I'm assuming it's a woman, is look at those skill sets that you have created, your leadership. How many people have you led? What kind of decisions did you have to make? What kind of teams did you build? Did you cultivate? From an enterprise sales leadership standpoint, if you're coming in a leadership standpoint, it's really understanding those transferable leadership traits that can help in any role. I'll give you an example too. I'll never forget when I was recruited, I was at IBM and I was recruited to go into aerospace. I didn't know how to do anything but spell aerospace. And literally, that changed the trajectory of my career. When I told the recruiter, I said, well, I'll go talk to the company. It was Honeywell. And so Honeywell, they traditionally within aerospace have promoted lots of people from the military, great leaders, but they wanted someone with sales skills. I went in there and all I did was talk and have a discussion. And they're like, she's the one we want. And when I got the role, I said, I'll transfer to 3 different places, Atlanta. The recruiter's like, no, you can't do that. But when someone wants you, they want you. Transferred from Virginia to Atlanta. Scariest moment, take calculated risks to that VP. It was the best decision. I learned is everything you all have been saying. I actively listen. I took the role of a business development executive. I worked on the strike fighter program. I sold missiles, bombs, and airplanes, literally the auxiliary power units for Honeywell. Didn't know any of that. All I did was sit with the customer and say, tell me your pain points. How can I help you get connected with the right people within my company to solve your problem? We were vendor of the year 2 years in a row. Never had the company ever done that. And I tell that young lady, the VP, just take all those skills that you've been able to do successfully with the bank, and you just come present it to whatever company you want, and you say, this is why I deserve this role. You have to own that. You're going to have to tell someone that may be looking at another person who may have more skills than you, why do you deserve the role? You got to own that and just make sure you're confident in delivering that message.
I love that. Love that. Love that. We're going to jump to the next question. I always find myself overthinking on whether or not I should shorten my name and make it more palatable.
That's a good one.
Mm.
I say no to that.
I'm there with you, girl.
As someone who has an unconventional, if you want to call it that way, name, I have always walking into spaces making sure that people use my full name. And if people mispronounce it, I say it's okay. And I pronounce it for them. And they usually are receptive to that. But there is power in your name. You were named likely by your parents, and they were very proud to give you that name, I'm sure. So I say use your full name and help people and guide people on how to pronounce your name.
Absolutely. And I always say this too. If you can say supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, you can say my name.
Yes.
Okay? If you can do that, which I'm sure everyone has sang that song at some point or heard it, you can say my name. So, yeah.
I love that.
Okay, awesome. Or your brand, Tiffany, your brand different from your job. Let's say you're a salesperson career-wise, but your brand is helping other brands find their feet. How do you handle that?
So our brand is our story. It's how people feel, or the words and the images that typically come to mind every time that they hear our name. So whether your brand is, hey, I'm in sales right now, but I have a brand for wanting to help people. For me, it's important for me to have that clarity as it relates to how I show up, how I interact, how I empower people. So if helping is your brand and you're a sales leader, then you can kind of pour into that brand by knowing that, hey, team, in 2 to 3 years, I expect my team to be different. Why? Because I am intentional about empowering you for whatever is next for you, right? So I think your brand is still core to who you are. It's core to how people see you that don't know you. And just like me coming into this new sales role, people know that, hey, I execute. I have a high expectation on what excellence looks like, and I don't deter from that, right? But at the same point in time, I empower people to be able to show up as their best selves, to be able to execute in their best way, right? So I don't think it's separate. I think our brand is core to who we are.
I love that, Tiffany. And I don't know what happened to Brandy, but we're going to keep the show going. So I see another question in there. It says, while applying for entry-level tech sale roles, what would you say is the best way to stand out in this current job market? And so, Jamarian, you want to take that one?
Sure. I came into NetApp and in the S3 Academy. I was in the very first class, and sales services and support. And this academy is phenomenal because it allows folks to join NetApp in a more entry-level position who have early in their career. And so I had the opportunity to come into NetApp in that capacity because I hadn't no experience in technology or in sales. And for me, standing out was really looking at what are those transferable skills. And, initially I said, I'm not going to be able to do sales. I'm not a salesperson. I've worked in higher ed for so many years. How do I transition? How do I pivot? And I realized, I was selling in a way. I was selling the idea of a higher education, job promotion, by giving people the tools that they needed to be successful. And that's essentially what I did when I talked about myself and my background and my experience. It was how I was able to create good relationships with people, with my students, with my staff, with my faculty, and how that would transfer into being able to create strong relationships with customers and leaders across the business. And I looked at, ways that I could help the company. So people are also interested in what you're going to do outside of the job. I'm also very, very, very active in what we call our EBRGs, our Employee Business Resource Groups. And so I'm actively working on figuring out how to raise awareness around LGBTQIA issues, advancing work for Black people in our company, those with different abilities. And so being willing to kind of step outside of your job, your day-to-day job, and help the company advance in other ways that is going to add value is also really an important way to kind of stand out as you're looking at entry-level roles. So looking at your experience and your background and how you can pull that into a new role that's maybe outside of your current background and experience.
I love that. Can I just comment on that, Jamarian? Everything you said is so awesome. One of the things that's most important I also look for is, what is your differentiator?
Mm-hmm.
If all the skills are comparable to you and somebody else competing against for that same position, what else do you bring to the table? Like you said, that community engagement. For me, early on, someone's always watching you. And because I would go and do the community food bank and just do things I love to do, people noticed that. And that became a differentiator. So the person, I would say everything you said makes sense. What else are you doing outside of what the request is for the job role? Can you bring to the table?
Right.
Great.
Not bad.
I'm sorry, I had technical issues, and
we kept it going, Brittany.
I was like, the conversations were organic anyway, so I'm like, I'm sure they're in sales, they know how to hold them.
You got it. It's like you got live demo. You know what happens in the live demo all the time. Yeah.
Right. Okay, where were we at? So did we get a chance to ask the last question?
The mentorship question we didn't ask about. I saw that we skipped that one.
Okay.
What's the best way to seek out?
So what's the best way to seek out mentorship, sponsorship at a new company or in a new role? I think that's a really good question.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't think you should be afraid to network. Come into a new organization. Nobody knew what my brand was. And literally week one, I was reaching out to, C-levels, the chief people officer and some other district managers and regional directors and other VPs, not necessarily just to get my name out. They didn't know me, a week into it. But I thought networking is very, very important. And that allowed me to be, because everybody's not going to be your sponsor and everybody's not going to be your mentor, but you're not going to know unless you actually have a conversation with them. So in those conversations of constantly networking, the value that was provided in a 30-minute segment, then I would be able to make a decision like, hey, I want to further this conversation. I thought it was very valuable. And I think you have something that you can pour into me that I can leverage as I'm looking to scale. So I think networking and not being afraid to just reach out to other individuals, whether it's in your business unit or, outside of your business unit. I've talked to HR, I've talked to legal, right? I mean, it's just all about different perspectives, and I feel like that opens up the door for you finding and understanding who your mentor and who your sponsor is.
I love that. I love the fact that you said too, like inside and outside of your organization. I think sometimes when we are so laser focused on the role we came to be doing with the company that we forget that there's a whole another ecosystem outside of our realm of what we do. And a lot of times you'll start to honestly connect the dots of how the business even starts working together and why they do the things that they do. And it helps you have a better holistic idea of, how the organization's running. So I think that's very important. And then also not being afraid, fear. I think fear really can get us tensed up and not really allow us to grow and flourish. Don't let that job title scare you. They're just a person. So a lot of times you're like, oh my God, this is the CEO of the company.
Yes.
Like they're a celebrity. Like, this is not Beyonce. Even if it was, I don't know. Beyonce might be another one for me, but
but she's still a person, though. You have to remember.
Still a person.
Yes, you humanize that person. That's most important.
Yes, exactly. Humanize it. Amazing. Share one of your favorite deals. Ooh.
Okay, I'll let's see. I'll share one of mine. And this goes back a little ways, but I was asked to take on this project. This is when I was an individual contributor that you probably can relate to if you're in sales. I was always considered like Mikey. I dated myself. Mikey was a go fix it person. So I had a set of accounts already, but they had this very, very large company that if I said the orange apron, you might know where it is. And it's a do it your own company, do it your own self kind of company. And they said, the account team just got kicked out. Could you please go ahead and take over this account? Knowing the customer, and of course you don't say no to your leadership team. Took on the account, and here's what I promised this customer, because they were very angry with some things that had transpired. And that happens. That's in sales. It's going to happen over your career if you're in sales long enough. The customer told me clearly, yes, we'll have you come on here, but you're not going to make any quota. You're not going to make any sales because you have to now come in and prove your company is worthy to be here. Understood. Guess what we did? I went to my leadership team. I said, I know I'm going to get a quota, but let me go get the best of the best team. to put on this account for 1 year. We're going to treat like this customer like they're a multi-million-dollar account. And every time we put a proposal before the customer, they rejected it, right? They said, we told you, you have to earn your stripes here. After about 12 to 13 months, we went in for a very, very small deal because we showed up, we did roadmaps, we did NDAs. I brought cookies to meetings, and everyone knows about my cookies and my cakes, that brand, right? Showing up, bringing in the best experts. I'll make a long story short. And Brittany, after 18 to 24 months, the company saw how we were treating them like they had become a multi-million-dollar company, and they hadn't bought anything. Won $100 million deal 2 years later. Every time you walk into the store, this major do-it-yourself store, you look and you see a logo in there. That is the brand that I created. So every time I go, that is something I'm very proud of. It was hard fought, but we just had the support behind us to do that.
But I love the fact that you said that you nurtured it. You showed you cared. You built the relationship. If they weren't a number to you, and you showed that and you demonstrated that, and you had enough time to build that rapport to get the trust. It's about earning the trust too. You don't just get it just walking in the door because it's the customer and hey, you already have paid us, so here. No, you have to build that trust. So I love that you said that, and I love that you got to have that sense of fulfillment knowing you had that in that deal. I love that for you. Okay, we're going to be wrapping it up. What life-changing books have you read? I'll throw one in there that I love that helped change my life. And I was listening to it in the gym working out, and I couldn't even work out because I was like, dang, that was another gem drop. It was like gem drop after gem drop. It was The 4 Agreements. That book is a very, very good book. Helps you really anchor yourself in how we're domesticated and in a thought process and a logic. And The Atomic Habits is what I'm reading now.
I've read that one. One for me, and it depends on where you are in your career. So this is for anyone who is about to go into leadership or if you're in leadership already. I read it 4 times. My leaders know they have to always have this book on their shelf. I have it on audio, and I have it 2 copies of it because the first one I just started going through highlighting it, and it's illegible now. It's the next called The Next Level by Scott Eblin. Oh my. Right now, if I pick it up, if you're changing job roles in the same company, hello, there it is. See, Tiffany, her new role, she's got it. That book, it just takes you to a whole new level. And when you read it, you have to read it without highlighting it because you're going to miss the nuggets. And then you go back and you reread it.
I love that. Tiffany, Jamarian, you got one?
For me, I would say one that I read recently that was really good was called Everyday Magic by Maddie James. And it was great for me just as a young mom and being in the business field. She really talked about navigating and finding balance in your life and being a businesswoman, trying to be a mom, trying to be a wife. And so that was a great read for me. I probably will read it again.
Yeah. And so for me, leaders eat last. So I come from a military family, and I love the way that book was put in place from a discipline standpoint, teaching you about discipline, teaching you about empowering your individual, whoever you're leading to be better. So that was definitely one that's top of mind for me.
Yes. We are what we consume. I always say that. We are what we consume. So be intentional about what you're putting into your body, what you're putting into your mind, what you're putting into your environments. It all does play out in the end. Awesome. Closing question. Last one. What is your motivation when times are hard?
For me, I'll start. I get that question quite a bit. You have to have a why. I like stories. My oldest daughter, I'm so proud of her. She just left her job, Eddie Bauer, and she went to Parsons Design School in New York and she's becoming a fashion designer, a serious fashion designer with her own line and all of that. But she just didn't go into it. She's reading all the books. She's doing the hard work. And so she's reading a book called The Why, and it relates to sales so much. For me, I was a single mom. My daughters were my why for years. And you have to get up and do what we do in sales. Your why has to be stronger than anything that you face. Having that why in front of me all the time. Number one. Number two, what impact and what difference now that I'm at a different level, I wake up, whose life can I impact every day? And for me, my faith, my foundation, that's my motivation. I have to wake up. Pray for strength, courage wisdom, insight, discernment, and knowledge every day so I can know how to execute.
Mm. I love that. My why is me. I'm trying to constantly be on the journey of learning to love me and all the facets and all those different things and unlearning things that were programmed into me for such a long time and showing up as a mom because I know that they're going to learn from me in me learning me. And so I've been really, really anchoring myself in that for me. So amazing. Okay. Well, with that, we are closing here out. I appreciate all of this time that I got to have with you ladies. This was so amazing getting to learn each and every single one of you. I see NetApp definitely has a very good eye for recruiting talent and making sure that you all don't forget that Sis in Sales also has an upcoming virtual event with TikTok. So we're going to be talking about creative and content and serious sales, mastering TikTok and your business. So you'll be able to go in and tune in. You can register for that LinkedIn event on the Assistant Sales on LinkedIn. So make sure you do that. But other than that, ladies, I'm so glad that I was able to talk to you, learn from you, and grow with you.
Yes.
You've been wonderful as a hostess and moderator for us. And thank you for your energy and everything you brought to the table. And thank you, Jamarian and Tiffany as well, my co-presenters.
Thank you. It's
Right.
fabulous.
Bye, ladies.
Bye. Have a great rest of your day. Bye, everyone.
Great day. Bye, everyone.